What is up, everybody, and welcome to another Celtics Talk Weekly special edition live stream. I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo. Alongside of me tonight, Andrew Quinn, Griffin Aldrich, and below me, two special guests here, Daniel and pointing the wrong way, Jorge, down here from Born for Sports, and that podcast. Go check out his channel over on YouTube, guys. How are all you doing today? Got a big live stream coming up here. Celtics versus Knicks on the horizon. Big preview coming up. But how's everybody feeling in here today?
Doing well. One more sleep. One more sleep, man.
Feeling good.
That's great.
Ready for tomorrow.
Now, just coming into the series, obviously we saw the Knicks. They shut out the Pistons in 6 games on the Pistons' home floor. Jaylen Brunson, a clutch dagger down the stretch to close out that series. And just a couple days earlier, the Boston Celtics, they go ham in that third quarter, outscoring the Magic 36-13, and then eventually running ahead of the Magic by 31 points to close out that series. And this past week, we saw, finally, for the last 3 years, we've been waiting for a Celtics versus Knicks matchup in the playoffs. We missed it in 2023 by a series. We missed it in 2024 by a series. And finally, in 2025, we get our Knicks versus Celtics series. But we'll start with you, Jorge, down here on the bottom. What were your initial thoughts coming into this series after the Pistons eventually succumbed to the New York Knicks and the Knicks advanced on to face the Celtics? What were your initial thoughts on this series?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks for having me on this good channel. I appreciate it. And shout out to all my Knick Nations, Knick salute out there to all the Knick fans out there. My initial thoughts when coming into was kind of similar to what you said. Finally, Knicks Celtics. I mean, listen, I'm kind of on the old school side of things. So Knicks Celtics has always been a rivalry for me. You know, back in the 90s, you know, those teams in the late 80s, whatever, you know, and it was bound to happen sooner or later. You know, the Knicks have been trying to let's be honest. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. It's been a long time since the Knicks have been like in this cycle they're in right now. So, you know, Celtics have always been there. You know, they've always been around. They've always been championship contenders for the most part, always either on the threshold or right there. You know what I'm saying? So the last few years, I felt like last year would have been a real good series, but the war of attrition took us out in the previous round. Celtics are the team to beat, no doubt about it. They're the better team. You know, they're the deeper team and the experienced team. You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm pretty excited for this series here because, you know, if you really look at what the Knicks did in the offseason, it was to match up against the Celtics. You know, they went kind of away from the gritty, grinding, defensive first team to, hey, we got to get more weaponry for the offense. And we kind of changed our identity, you know, this year. You know, we still have some capability of playing the grind out kind of games we showed in the Pistons series the previous round. But for the most part now, we have help for Jaylen Brunson. Help. Something we didn't have since he has gotten here. We had Julius Randle already. The fit for a couple years, any Knick fan to tell you, was kind of clumsy. We kind of like, okay, Julius Randle's a good, solid player, but is he that next level player that Brunson has turned into to match him here? We always felt like Brunson's here and Randle is here, and we weren't sure we could make that work uneven. It was too uneven. So what they did is, in the offseason, they went in and traded him, and it hurt to give my guy Devo away, man. Devo was one of my guys, DiVincenzo, in that trade. But if you ask a real Knick fan who has watched this team last few years, that was the guy we didn't want to give up mostly. We kind of knew Randle had to go. So we got Towns. We got better spacing on the floor for Brunson to go to work. We made the trade for Bridges, re-sign OG. So these moves have always been about playing your team, you know, eventually in the real deal playoffs. We're going to find out if we're ready for that matchup because the Knicks are going up in weight class. There's no doubt about that. You know what I'm saying? This is the Celtics are the chance for a reason. So we don't have the deeper team like you guys do, but our lineup that starting lineup can can put some work out there. So we're gonna see. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. Knicks Celtics, it don't get much better than that, man.
100%. And your thoughts, Daniel, on this series?
Jorge mentioned the matches or their matchups, and I just feel like although the Knicks are a stronger team than they were before, um, call me biased for this, but I think Celtics win in every single category, whether it's defensively or offensively. And something else that I wanted to bring up, I think it's the real talking point of this matchup, is the mismatches that the Celtics can bring up, the that the Celtics can create, and how those mismatches will affect the Knicks in this series. We've seen from the Magic series that they're a really competitive team. They're really like, how would you say it? They're really like hands on, and they're like what Jorge said. They're a defensive team that they're gonna try every play to stop us from scoring. It ended up not working, but I will say this: I think the Magic would be the most defensive team we're gonna face throughout the entire series. So I think really defensively, the Knicks, I don't think they can hold us. And I think we also beat them on mismatches, which is where we're gonna see most of possessions go. We could see Tatum on Bridges, which I'd say is easy money. We could see Tatum on Hart. We could see Brown on Bridges. I think Bridges is the main player that they're gonna try to get to mismatch because I think defensively he just doesn't have as much as the Celtics do. So we're gonna try to like put either Tatum on Brown or Brown on Bridges and just let them do their own thing. And you mentioned Brunson. Um, I think Brunson is still gonna do his thing. I mean, it's Brunson. I gotta admit, he's a fantastic player, one of the best guards we've seen in the East. I think for that matchup, we either go either Holiday or White. I think once again, I got to bring up their defense. We could put any one of our starting five on Brunson, and I wouldn't say we stop him from scoring, but I will say it makes it harder for him to score. Um, I think we're going to see different from the Knicks Pistons series is that the Pistons didn't have someone who could guard Brunson. You saw Asar getting cooked for that in that last game. We're going to see something different against the Celtics series because we have people that can stop him or that can make it harder for him to score. One other matchup that's going to be fun to see is Carl Anthony Towns and Porzingis. I think those two have had it against each other for a while now. We saw it in the regular season, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens between those two. Honestly, can't go through this without talking about the 4-0 record that we have against the Knicks in the regular season. But honestly, that doesn't mean anything because it's a different thing in the playoffs, and it's just going to be a fun series to watch.
Yes, and your thoughts, Andrew?
Yeah, I think for one, I'm just excited that it's a Knicks Celtics series. I can kind of faint memory that I kind of pull up is, Christmas Day, Celtics, maybe like 2012, Carmelo Anthony versus KG and in the big three, and just that feeling that I get from this matchup is unmatched, and there just feels a lot of history, a lot of there's a competitive spirit to it that I just am excited to experience now that I'm older and I can kind of call back that memory. From a playing standpoint, I think that the Celtics definitely have an opportunity to, put the defense into, switching, forcing them to, we're going to be able to put like Brunson and Towns kind of in pick and roll scenarios and kind of attack them out of that and just really stress the defense and allow downhill action and kick out. So I think the goal for the Celtics is just to really, really put extensive pressure on the Knicks and just find ways to attack, get downhill, and just find kickouts and really have more ball movement than we did with the Magic, considering they kind of wanted to give just force Tatum and Brown to produce on their own. And I'm just excited, and I think that bench depth for us is going to be a key. Mikal Bridges, or actually my bad, McBride, Mitchell Robinson, and the other bench guys, they only had like 3.8 in the last Pistons series. They averaged that for points. So just our ability to match up against them from a bench depth perspective is going to be key for the Celtics. But other than that, I think we're going to get into it anyways. But I'm excited. Everyone should get their popcorn ready, and it's going to be a fun series to win this.
For certain. And Griffin, round out this segment here. Initial thoughts?
Yeah, my initial thoughts, I said it when I got interviewed by NBC Sports Boston. This is a series that everyone wanted. I mean, come on now. We didn't want a Pistons Celtics series. It's New York versus Boston, both king cities. You gotta have it.
The rivalry, man. It's
exactly. Like
fans are electric on both sides. I mean, best in the business, so it's kind of. But go Griffin, yeah, man.
Yeah, but one thing I do gotta mention before I dive into my quick take, but Jorge, I gotta say I gotta give you some respect because you're not like big New York fan. You're not like the other guys who will, attack you. Like I'm used to the Yankees Red Sox rivalry, and I haven't. It's a lot different up in this way in Maine. We don't see so many Knicks fans. You will see a lot of Yankees fans here, but here it's not that same thing. So I gotta give you some respect because coming in here, I was gonna be like, all right. He might be a little hot because he's, a Knicks fan, and I don't know if it's going to be the same as like Yankees, So I gotta give some.
Well, I'll say this. Not to cut you off. I appreciate that, but I'll be honest. That New Yorker dog is in me, bro.
I understand. I would be mad if it wasn't.
Yeah. I'm a very listen. I'm maybe because I'm on the OG side of things. I kind of see things from different angles now, man. So listen, the Knicks, this is a big test for the Knicks, okay? I'm not going to hold y'all. I'm not coming over here and to make it seem like, oh, we about to kick your asses, tweet and all that. No, this is going to be a big test for the Knicks, man. And I'm excited. But go ahead, man. Finish your point, bro.
No, I agree. It is. And it shows what Boston really is too. I mean, they just faced the Orlando Magic, and that's one of the better defensive teams that they are going to see. And, I think of this. My initial thought is scoring for the Boston Celtics is going to come a lot easier in this series. I mean, it's true. Your sixth man of the year, Peyton Pritchard, was really stuck. And, Porzingis, there's some beef between that. I watched a TikTok today where Knicks fans were booing when he got drafted. So, I mean, there's some tension still in between Porzingis and New York, so there's a lot of tension between that. And I think ultimately it's a rivalry. I mean, Madison Square Garden is one of the best places to watch basketball. We all know that. That's where people go. And you have TD Garden, which is one of the loudest arenas in the NBA. So it's like I said, again, it's what everyone wanted. This matchup isn't going to be one where no one's going to be watching this. This is going to be all eyes on it. Like Andrew said, I think it was Andrew, get out the popcorn. And I love what Daniel said too. I'm excited for the matchups. I think it's killed me not to watch Celtics basketball in like past few days. Like I'm on the edge of my seat already for this series, but
withdrawals. They're withdrawals. That's what they're called, Griffin.
It is, I'm ready. Like Andrew said too, one more sleep, but I'm excited for this series. It's one where, like I said again, and I said on NBC Sports Boston, it's what everyone wanted. It's not like, this is going to help with viewership. I think that's what's so valuable about this playoffs, this year is it's been great matchups to this point. And this is the one everyone wanted. No one wanted a Magic Piston series. Everyone wanted the Knicks and Celtics, and that's what they got. And I think looking back too, after this series is over, I think this is going to be one of the best series in the playoffs. Just rivalry wise, New York versus Boston. This is going to be one where we're talking about in 2030, and we're going to be like, hey, look, this was a fun series to watch. I think regardless, but that's my take. I think it's going to be a fun series. And this is my Boston fan coming out. I'm going Celtics in 4 because I'm ready to kick some ass.
Oh, man. Damn.
I know. I was
early.
That was relatively tamed all the way until the last sentence.
Wow.
I had
Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Get the room ready, I see. Okay.
No. I will say, to be fair, Jorge, he did say this the other night on a live stream. So,
He's been saying.
It's not just a front here. It's, you know,
it's all good, man.
He's standing up.
Man.
He's standing up for his
didn't pull the
prediction.
holiday jerseys yet this time.
I didn't pull up the holiday, you know. Yeah. I just, you know, I got like you said though, Jorge. Like you said, you got that Knicks dog in you. You got that New Yorker in you.
Yeah,
I got that Boston Celtics in me. You know, you know, and this is one thing I value too. We're all analysts, like we really are. We analyze these teams. We're analysts, but at the end of the day, we're also hardcore fans. So we're going to be delusional. And Boston fans are one of the most delusional, and I take that. I will take that type.
Hey, listen, Knicks fans, there's some delusion in every fan base.
Yeah,
we got some too.
We got
some too.
The best of the best are delusion, though.
It's how it is. It's how
it separates the good from the great.
It really is. It really is.
But you know, that's what makes sports great, guys. That's what makes sports great. You know,
it is.
You know, that competitive, you know, fandom. Listen, one thing about me, I ride or die with every team I root for, man, in any sport, man. And it affects me when my team ain't good. It do. It affects my life. It affects my everyday life, and I don't even be knowing. You know, my kids and my wife get a little more annoying when they talk to me when my team has a tough loss on that night. The rules in my house are, okay, half an hour break. Talk to me in 30 minutes. Let me process. I'll come get back with y'all. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way it is. That's just how it is, man. Listen, we ride or die for our teams, and you know that's what makes it great. That's what makes sports great. You know, you don't want it to be just chalk all the time. You know, and that's what I'm hoping for this series. I'm hoping the Knicks play up to the potential that I feel they have. I think they actually do match up with the Celtics a lot better than a lot of people might think. But I think our biggest issue with dealing with the Celtics is our bench. And it's been our Achilles heel the entire season. And, you know, listen, some of it came because when you make a trade like that for Karl Anthony Towns, right as training camp is starting, you don't really have enough time to fill out pieces here and there with the bench. They had to do what they had to do. You know, you have to make that trade every time. And we expected guys like Campaign to take a step up and lead. We expected Deuce to take a step up and lead. You know, Precious, these guys. We had some young players. Tibs is the type of coach he doesn't like to play his young players. That is my issue with him. You know, he doesn't like to play his young players enough, the rookies that we got. And that's why people talk about the minute stuff all the time with him, because, you know, he has his stubborn ways of thinking. He has shorter rotations, especially in the playoffs. So the way I see it is this. OG Anunoby is the biggest key for the Knicks in this series if they want to compete in this series. Now, he has to be the one to do what he did to Cade Cunningham in the last series. The Knicks predominantly had him matched up with Cade the entire series. Mikal got looks too. Don't get me wrong. He did, because you can't just have one guy guard all the time. Teams make adjustments. They'll find ways to get their best players space to make plays. But for the most part, that was OG's assignment. And he did a good job against Cade, I thought. You know what I'm saying? So this season, in the 4 games, the Celtics basically dominated 3 of them. No doubt about it. You won't hear me say otherwise. They were the better team, and they showed it. You know what I'm saying? But in the games when we had our healthy roster, OG was guarding Tatum, and he did a pretty good job against him. You know, he did a pretty good job against him. But coaching matters. And you guys got a real good coach. Manzula knew what to do. He always made sure to have Tatum switch, you know, always take advantage of the drop coverage with Cat all the time and things like that. I would assume that Tibs is going to do different with that type of stuff because he did it differently with Detroit. We will see. But I think OG Anunoby, from the Knicks' point of view, is the key matchup of this series. You're not going to stop players like Cade Cunningham and Jason Tatum. Those guys are too good, especially Jason Tatum. He's probably the MVP of the league this year. We'll see. But you got to have situations where you got guys that can at least contain them. We can't afford a 50, 45-point game from Tatum every night. That's not going to work for us. I would expect OG to be his number one assignment and slow him down as best he could. The stats during the season, Tatum was actually 5 for 20 shooting when he was guarded by the OG. So I'm sure Manzula will have adjustments ready, but I'm hoping OG Anunoby is up to the task, man.
So would you say OG Anunoby is the X factor for the Knicks in this series?
Absolutely.
Definitively?
No.
Well, that brings me into the next point here is for you guys looking on the Celtics perspective of things, Griffin, Andrew, and Daniel here, who's the X factor for the Celtics in this series? And do you agree with Jorge's point of OG Anunoby being the X factor of the Knicks? And Daniel, we'll start with you.
Honestly, I didn't even know that Tatum stat on OG. I think it's definitely interesting. It's gonna make the series competitive, and like Jorge said, I think Missoula is gonna have adjustments, but it's gonna be interesting to see how Tatum goes against him and if anything changes from the regular season. In terms of X factor, I would say there are two X factors for the Celtics. The first one being Porzingis. I think, yeah, I'll say it. I think during the regular season, he was one of the best players, if not the best player, during those Celtics Knicks games during the regular season, because he has that grudge. Like Griffin said, there's history between Porzingis and the Knicks because of that draft night. And I think we're gonna see the same Porzingis we did during the regular season, and I hope we do, because that's the guy that's gonna step up if Tatum, Brown, White aren't like doing that good offensively. We're gonna need a KP to kind of like pick it up offensively and get that matchup with Karl Anthony Towns or anybody else and just get in his bag, which I think he can. The second X factor, I think, is going to be another thing that Griffin said, bench. Looking at Perrin Pritchard, to be exact, he had a quieter series against the Magic because I think they were a more defensive team that I guess knew how to stop him, or just maybe just didn't get enough playtime. I don't know. But I think Pritchard, once again, if the starters aren't picking it up, they're going to go to the bench. Pritchard comes in, and I think we're really going to see what our bench has to offer once Pritchard comes in and leads that second unit. And yeah, once again, if Pritchard's doing what he's doing, KP's doing what he's doing, it takes a lot less pressure off of the stars of the team. I'm talking about Tatum, White, and Brown. The reason I'm not mentioning Holiday is because I see him as a more defensive player. He's good offensively. Don't get me wrong. He has his nights, but I see him as more as a defensive player. And speaking of Holiday, I think defensively he's the X factor because he just got cleared to play game one after being out for the last two games against the Magic. And I think defensively, I'm gonna love seeing him matched up with the Bridges, with Brunson or any other guard that the Knicks have. So yeah, I think those three guys, but I think mainly I want to see Porzingis just get in his bag. I want to see a 30-point performance from him at least for like two games of this series. And I think if he does what he has to do, then Tatum and Brown do what they have to do. Then once again, it's gonna be a fun series, and I'm interested to see where this goes.
And Andrew, who's your X factor for the Celtics?
For the Celtics, I'm gonna go.
Or for the Knicks too. We'll throw
Yeah,
in
I'm
both
gonna. I'm
teams
definitely.
here.
I'm gonna go into the Knicks as well. You know, I mean, I think you're right. About Porzingis, I think that we're gonna have a good opportunity to use him. You know, in screening action, possibly get some pick and pops, get him on some switches to just create mismatches on the offensive end, and then. But I'm gonna go with Jaylen Brown, honestly, because they talked about it, and you talked about it, saying OG's gonna guard Tatum, so he's gonna put a lot of pressure on Tatum, but then you're gonna have Brown have the ability to really, Tatum's gonna be able to, maybe he gets double, maybe he's gonna be trapped, but Tatum's gonna be able to get kickouts. He's gonna be able to find Brown there.
Is he really healthy, by the way, guys? Is he healthy?
I would say yes.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're always managing
it's one of the most confusing injuries we've ever seen, because I believe the other day he said he's turning the corner, which he's been turning the corner for 2 weeks now, and I really don't understand what type of knee injury it is, because he's saying it's not structural, which is good. But then, he receives these injections, and that's a thing with his knee injury. Let me see if I can find the exact quote. Yeah, so here's the exact quote by Jaylen Brown. "I think I'm starting to turn the curve. Structurally, everything is fine. I've had some other stuff going on, but I think I'm trending in the right direction." So that was recently. That was just after Game 5. It was in between the couple days here.
Okay.
Jaylen Brown, it doesn't seem like he's 100%, but he does seem healthier right now than he did, say, 2.5 weeks ago. There is a little bit of a concern with me, within me, that Jaylen Brown over time potentially, like, I wonder how much the injections did for himself in this last series against the Magic, playing 5 games. And, he had a couple of nice performances, most notably when Jason Tatum was out of Game 2, he put up 36 points and really dominated on that end of or for the Celtics on both ends of the floor that night. This series for Jaylen, the Magic series, was certainly uplifting. However, there's still a question within me surrounding his knee injury moving forward, knowing, okay, he's going to be playing upwards of 35, 40 minutes a night in this Knicks series. And who knows, it could go 5, 6, even 7 games. Some people believe that out there. And in that scenario, under the intensity of playoff basketball, over and over and over again, not only in this series, but a potential conference finals or finals series for Jaylen Brown, I do wonder how that shapes out for his knee over time, and what injury he actually had in the first place, because it's been very confusing it's been very confusing determining what exactly that injury was. So in terms of Jaylen Brown's health, it's something to monitor, although it seems to be on the uptrend. The only thing that doesn't make sense for me is, well, he's on the uptrend while also playing intense playoff basketball for nearly 40 minutes a night, which just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But we'll see how he looks moving forward. But in terms of X factors for the Celtics, Jaylen Brown is certainly going to be. I mean, the Celtics, we've been saying it here on this program all season long. I mean, we have X factors, we have Y factors. Derek White, he took the nickname of Y factor halfway through the season here on this program, and we've been talking. I mean, on any given night with the Celtics' depth and versatility, there can be multiple X factors on this roster, and obviously Jaylen Brown can be one of those, especially if a guy like Jason Tatum isn't on. But in terms of X factors for the Celtics and Knicks, Griffin, from your perspective, who do you see as the main X factors in this series for either team?
I'm gonna let Andrew finish his take first, because he said that, but I'll go right after.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I said, Brown, because like if they're guarding Tatum heavy, Brown's gonna be able to have an opportunity to attack mismatches and kind of get in his bag. But then I agree with you with OG Anunoby from an entire from an offensive and defensive perspective, because defensively, yeah, he's gonna have to guard Tatum. He's gonna have a lot of minutes on him. He's gonna have to make Tatum really work for his shots. But then offensively during the series, Anunoby only averaged like 9 points per game for the against the Celtics during the series. So you're gonna have Towns, you're gonna have Brunson getting their own, right? Like it's inevitable. The Celtics have to make those guys struggle and make it difficult for them to get those looks and get those scoring opportunities. But you're gonna need either Anunoby or Bridges to produce on the offensive end to really give the Knicks a fighting chance, because the bench production is not as efficient and is not as helpful, so that's kind of my outlook on it. And I just think that either of those two guys need to find a way to really step it up this series.
I definitely agree with that. Because, OG has to be more aggressive offensively. Like you were just saying also about Jaylen Brown. That sounds kind of sketchy, but he is playing playoff intensity basketball. I think OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges need to make Jaylen Brown work a little bit on the other end, and Tatum as well on the other end. Like you guys mentioned, our bench is not strong, so I'm thinking like maybe we kind of tinker with certain lineups where we leave maybe Bridges in there with the second unit for some minutes when Jalen Brunson and Towns have to sit. Those minutes are so key for the New York Knicks when they have to get those guys their rest minutes. Because a lot of times when that happens, the game kind of gets a little, either they'll be up 11 and then all of a sudden it's like a 3-point game, or they're down 2, or stuff like that happens, So it will be interesting to see because I saw a little bit of it with Tibs. He would put Towns or Bridges in with the second unit to have more minutes once Brunson got his rest minutes. Then when Towns either got into foul trouble or he would need his rest minutes, Brunson would either come back in or they'll leave Bridges out there. I definitely think that OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges have to make Tatum and Brown work. Tatum's a great player. Like I said, you're not gonna stop players like that. You're just not. They're too good. But you got to contain them, and the best way to do it is make them work on both ends. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me though, I'm gonna say this. I'll start off with the Knicks. I feel like the X factor for the Knicks, I think you guys have been talking about it a lot. I'm gonna say Karl Anthony Towns is one X factor. I think he could be inconsistent at some times, and I want to say that I think he needs to have a dominant series the whole way through. It's just how it has to be. But the other X factor for the Knicks is Mikal Bridges. I mean, he is a guy where we saw when he was in that run with the Phoenix Suns, he was incredible. And that was, I'm going to say this, that was the best version of him. And I think if he goes back to that Mikal Bridges, that's going to be a problem for the Boston Celtics. And but it's the matter of, can he get back to that self and be in that competitive playoff basketball and do what he did against the Suns, because he's in a complete different organization now. He's not doing the things that he was expected to do with the Phoenix Suns. He's in a different spot. But I think if he were to be in that kind of role, I think that could kill the Boston Celtics. Not kill them, but it would push more games. And I think that would be a struggle for the Boston Celtics. So I'm going to say that's the main X factor if he could play that way, but I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. But for the Boston Celtics, there's a couple names that pop into my head. You know what Drew Holiday is going to give you. You know what Derek White can give you, but I want to see Peyton Pritchard, again, what Daniel said, go back to himself prior to the Orlando Magic series, which I think he will. So not really X factor. But I also think that Tatum is also a big guy we look at. He's done great against the Knicks in these matchups. One notable one was season opener, where he had 37 points and didn't even play the fourth quarter. I mean, he was incredible. And if you get that version of Tatum, that's the version of Tatum that's scary for the Knicks, and that's the version of Tatum that could beat the Knicks in 4. And if you don't shut him down, then if you get that version of Tatum who's passing the ball on key, making plays for other players and scoring 37 a night and also getting rebounds, like that's a scary Tatum, and that's what can kill the Knicks. But so I'm going to say he's the main X factor, but I like Daniel's take too with Porzingis. I think he obviously, to my previous take too, has a lot of, beef with the Knicks, essentially. I feel like, every night he goes out there, he has something to prove and he wants to leave it all on the floor there. But ultimately, I think for me, I'm going to say Mikal Bridges and Jason Tatum. I think that's how it's going to be. And I wonder if Mikal can dig deep and understand how important this playoff series is. And for Tatum, if he can perform how he did, this season in the regular season, I don't think the Knicks stand a chance if he's playing to that level, But Seamus, who are your X factors? Oh, we cannot hear you, Seamus.
Oh no, we're good. We're good. We have a little Meow Meow's back at it.
Oh,
You
yeah,
guys,
yeah.
it's a reoccurring member of the program as well. Meow. She's spoken on this program as much as anybody this season. But ultimately, for the Celtics, my X factor here in this series, in terms, it's hard to cast for the Celtics because the Celtics just have so many dominant pieces on the roster. It could be a guy like Porzingis ramping up in this series. Obviously, Tatum and Brown, they have the ability to get theirs on any given night. White, he is somebody who always cooks teams in the background. And Drew Holiday, not so much an offensive guy, but he's going to play a huge defensive factor in this series and throughout the playoffs. I think the one player I look at though, and I pinpoint him as if he has a really, really good series, this could be a dominant series for the Celtics. And Griffin, I know you have the Celtics in 4. That's when you could see the Celtics in 4 scenario arise if this player is on point, and that is Peyton Pritchard, because this is going to be a Peyton Pritchard series. With who the Knicks have, I mean, Jorge, you know it, off their bench, the Knicks are basically going 8 deep right now, and they really only feel comfortable playing 5 guys. They really only feel comfortable playing their starters. After that, Miles McBride, Campaign, Mitchell Robinson, that's who you're bringing off the bench. Maybe Precious Achua could be considered within this series at certain times, but he didn't play at all in that Pistons series, which doesn't give me much confidence that he'll see minutes moving forward. But just off the bench for the Knicks, you have McBride, you have Payne. Those are 2 guys the Knicks are going to have to play some minutes in this series. And against either one of those matchups, Peyton Pritchard is going to be able to be out on the floor because McBride doesn't pose the offensive threat towards the Celtics, and that's somebody that Peyton Pritchard can easily match up on defensively, and you don't feel uncomfortable with that defensive size matchup if you're the Celtics. If you have Peyton Pritchard on, say, a 6'6", 6'7" forward or even a guard, that's when it's a problem for the C's. But you have Miles McBride, who's nearly the same size as Pritchard. You can take that same thing with Campaign. You're working with the same issue there. And I mean, really, McBride and Campaign, you're switching offense for defense if you're the Knicks off the bench with your guards. But even if those guys don't play a ton of minutes, Jaylen Brunson is at the forefront of this Knicks offense, and he needs to be on the floor for, I mean, almost the entirety of games in this series. And he was in the last series against the Detroit Pistons, and we're going to see the same thing again in this series. And in that scenario, it's another occasion where the Celtics can go and play Peyton Pritchard on the defensive end of the floor and feel pretty comfortable that, okay, Jaylen Brunson, if he's matched up on Peyton Pritchard, yes, the Celtics have a ton of size and a ton of athleticism and versatility to throw at Brunson just within their normal lineup. But if you have Pritchard on Brunson on the defensive end of the floor, you don't feel like it's a total loss if you're the Celtics just because of the size matchup there. And just ultimately, I think if Peyton Pritchard on the offensive end of the floor, if he can come in and be that spark plug, think about it. He's 6th man of the year. He's coming off the bench for the Celtics. The Knicks don't really have too much help coming in off the bench. You're going to see a lot of minutes put on the starting lineup. You're going to see those guys maybe get a little fatigued, maybe get a little tired over time, as we saw in that Pistons series from the Knicks. And in those moments where Peyton Pritchard comes into a game, say he plays 25 to 30 minutes a night, while some of the other starters might play upwards of 40 minutes, Peyton Pritchard can impact the game in a lesser amount of minutes compared to some of these other guys, and can really emit that burst of energy we've always seen from Peyton Pritchard, dating back to his rookie year. Even in college, he was that guy. And then obviously he's just been able to develop over this period of time to become the player in which won 6th man of the year this year. But if he has a big series, I think the Celtics could certainly, that's when you could see the Celtics, it tilt towards domination for them. That's more of a looking at it from a, what could, I already see the Celtics winning this series, but I see Pritchard as the X factor from the standpoint of he could take the Celtics from, say, 5 or 6 games to 4 games, depending on how well he really does play within the first couple of games of the series and how well he takes advantage of that New York Knicks matchup. So I do see Pritchard as the X factor for the Celtics. As for the Knicks, Jorge, I think you hit it on. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's going to be OG Anunoby because if you look at some of the matchups in the regular season, you already mentioned it. OG Anunoby wasn't even around for 3/4 of the matchups we saw in the regular season, and he's a pretty big part of their team. I mean, come on, the Knicks. He signed him to one of the most lucrative contracts in NBA history over the 2024 offseason. That's a piece you definitely need in order to defeat the Boston Celtics, and he's to me the best defensive player on the Knicks by far. Maybe you could say Josh Hart, but I mean those two are just they put on defensive masterclasses game after game after game. But those two guys, they're going to be huge on defense. But Anunoby, he does have a little bit of on the offensive end of the floor. If he can hit his shots from deep and create a little bit for this Knicks offense to take the load away from Brunson and Towns primarily and give the Knicks another look, that's where you could see the Knicks turn up to another level. That's when you could see the Knicks potentially forcing 6-7 games in this series. Is if OG Anunoby, if he comes out and he's scoring 20, 25 a night, that's when the Knicks could turn up to another level. I think Bridges could also be that player, but I'm looking at Anunoby more so as that player because I don't doubt Bridges' ability to score in a basketball game. It's just I think Anunoby, when you look at it from a defensive perspective, I think he has a more well-rounded game all around than Bridges, just in terms of what he's brought to the Knicks this season and in this Celtics matchup this season. I mean, again, like Bridges, he played in these Celtics matchups this season, and now Anunoby, he's inserted into the lineup. And to me, I just think Anunoby brings you another defensive punch, a little bit better of a punch than Bridges. Not to undersell Bridges because he's a phenomenal defensive player as well. I think he can be I think Bridges for this Knicks team, and this kind of could get me into another subject here with the Knicks that we could talk about. But I want to see Mikal Bridges in his career turn up to that Chris Middleton level of score, where you saw Chris Middleton play with Giannis and Drew Holiday, and he was kind of their primary guy. I mean, obviously Jaylen Brunson is the Knicks' primary guy, and then after him, the secondary offensive bucket getter for the Knicks is Karl Anthony Towns. But can Mikal Bridges, if he reaches that Chris Middleton level of efficiency within his career, just off the dribble, he could be a nice tertiary guy for the Knicks over time. It's just I don't think that full potential has been unleashed this year. You could chalk that up to, well, this is his first year with the Knicks. The depth isn't that great. They're playing a ton of minutes throughout the season. And even Tibs, this is where it could get me into another conversation. Is Tibs a creative enough head coach, an innovative enough head coach to bring that out of Bridges? And so that kind of does bring me to the next subject here. Obviously, OG Anunoby, the X factor for the Knicks in this series, from my perspective, and Peyton Pritchard for the Celtics. But it does bring me to another conversation when it comes to Mikal Bridges and how the Knicks use him within the lineup. We see this Knicks team that we expect over the offseason, they'll probably add some names around the fringes as much as they can. Obviously, they're paying a big bill for this roster, but there's still minimum guys you can see out there on the market the Knicks could potentially grab. But Jorge, from your perspective in this series, what is on the line for the New York Knicks in this series? I know a lot of Knicks fans don't have massive expectations going up against the Celtics here in this spot, but what is really on the line for the Knicks? Could Tibbs' job be on the line in this series?
Well, I think it definitely could be on the line, and that's the word out here. That's the thing. See, with Tibbs is, he's a good coach. I like Tibbs, and let me first, before I make my point about this, I like Tibbs. I think he's a good coach, but there's still that question. It's still that question. Two things. Number one, is he too stubborn? And he is. He's a very stubborn coach. He's stubborn in his ways. And a lot of times it has rubbed players the wrong way around the league. And they don't like, they have this reputation about him that he runs his players to the ground. Well, Jaylen Brunson, Josh Hart, these guys, Bridges, these guys have all said, especially Hart and Brunson, they have defended Tibbs ad nauseum all the time about him. Like, oh, it's not even like that. We play a lot of minutes, but he doesn't even really practice a lot. He doesn't make us practice a lot during the week, and it kind of saves us and stuff. Me personally, I don't like the fact that he plays our players too many minutes. But in this case here, with the bench that we have, I think some of it is because of that. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't trust the bench. The bench just doesn't put in enough work, and he wants to win. He's going to do that. But the word out here is and I really think this is a big thing. If we look bad and if we get just dusted in 4 games, I think there is a path to where the Knicks could move on if the right coach becomes available out there. You know, I do think that, because the thing about it with Tibs is he's a good coach, but he hasn't gotten over the hump yet in any stop he's made. He's kind of had the teams right there, and they just haven't gotten over the hump. I personally compare him to the Buck Showalter of I don't know if you guys follow baseball much, but he's kind of like the Buck Showalter of the NBA and coaching circles. You know, he gets teams to the right. Buck Showalter is a manager in baseball. You know, he had a couple of stops, but he always gets good teams and does a good job, but they never get over the hump. And once he leaves, that team wins a World Series after that. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's kind of the comparison. Not saying teams win the championship in the NBA once Tibs leaves, but he gets teams to a certain point, and it comes to a point where you can't keep changing. You just can't keep changing the roster every year and not put the coach in the flames. You know what I'm saying? We've made this roster up 3 or 4 times. He's done a good job with it, but sooner or later you can't change. It's an old saying in sports nowadays. You can't fire the players. You know what I'm saying? You can't fire the players. So if you don't get to that next level, or you don't show you're making progress to that next level, then organizations are going to start looking at, maybe we need to make a change with the players. Mikal Bridges' comments early in the season about the minutes was an eye-opener, because he was actually the first player on the Knicks to actually come out public and say something to that effect. Brunson, like as I mentioned, never did. Hart never did. Randall never did when he was here. So that tells me now that things are out there. Things are out there now. So if we get dusted in 4 games, I absolutely can see a scenario play out where the Knicks might look outside the organization. There's been talk, there's been a little whispers about Malone since Denver let Malone go. But the funny thing is, Malone is kind of the similar kind of coach that Tibs is. You know, he doesn't like to play his young players like that. So that's kind of interesting to me, but he has a ring. So there is some talk and chatter that this series is definitely a make or break type of situation for Tibs. If the Knicks go out, listen, we're the underdogs here. No one out here is saying that we're going to dust you guys, okay? That's not happening. But if the Knicks can be at least competitive for 6 games, okay, and show that, hey, they can match up, we just don't have enough on the roster yet, then I think Tibs stays. But it's a big deal. Everything is going to be about optics, because there's been a lot of talk all season. The Knicks did not have a good record against the best teams in the conference, in both conferences this year. You know, they did sweep Denver and stuff like that. They did beat Houston, but they didn't do well against Oklahoma. They didn't do well against Cleveland. They didn't do well against Boston. Hey, it's out
10 versus those 3 teams.
Yeah, you know,
10.
It is what it is. Now, there's certain factors. There was some games there where the Knicks were resting a lot of players or had injuries, but the bottom line is the bottom line. You have to beat something. Sooner or later, you got to get a win against those teams. Hey, this is a situation where optics are going to be everything for the Knicks with Coach Tibs going forward. If, like I said, if they get dusted in this series badly, where it's just non-competitive and you never felt like the Knicks had a shot in either game, I can definitely see, you know, the Knicks moving on from Tibs if the right coach becomes available. I don't think they'll just make a change to make a change. But I think that this is a big series for him. Now, we would have lost to Detroit. Absolutely, he's gone. It wouldn't even have mattered. He would have been gone. He wouldn't even have got back on the plane. It would have been over.
So,
you know what I'm saying?
Is there a way that Tibs can save his job in this series? I mean, obviously, by winning the series, I think you could maybe make that case. But say if it is pushed to 7 and the Knicks lose a heartbreaker in 7, do you see Tibs back in that scenario?
I do see Tibs back if, as I said, like if this is a competitive 6-game, at least 6-game series, at least 6 games. If we get beaten 5 and like three of the four games are just non-competitive. I definitely think there's a scenario where it could be a change in order. Tibs has to show that he can at least match up, make adjustments. These things are out there. It's too much noise now at this point. And after the Towns trade, the Knicks don't really have a lot of assets to keep changing rosters over and over again. This core is going to be the core for a couple of years now. It's going to be basically adding around this. So he's got to show that, you know, he's able to do the right things and match up with these elite teams, because you're a 3 seed, but the 2 teams ahead of you this year, you didn't get a win against either one. And a lot of those games were non-competitive for whatever reasons they were. So, hey, I'm sure Tibs knows that. I think the Knicks are more confident coming into this series than they were going in the regular season playing, you guys, based on the, you know, they just won a hard-fought series now, and they're going to probably take on the underdog mentality, as they should, because, listen, the Celtics are the chance for a reason, man. This is a step in weight class, you know. There's matchups that the Knicks have that if they play well, they can compete. They really are. I really feel that way. Jaylen Brunson is one of the best players in basketball, and he doesn't do it the conventional superstar-ish way that we are used to seeing with all these great young players. But to me, he's a superstar. He's a top 10 player in the league, okay? Based on everything that's on the weight that he carries, and he continues. Hey, clutch player of the year, those things matter, man. Towns, we know what he can do offensively and rebound. His key is foul trouble on defense. It's his issue, foul trouble. And I think he matches up better with Porzingis in this series than the last series against Detroit, because Detroit want to bang. Darren, they want to bang. They want to play physical. That is not what Towns' strong suit is. Porzingis and Towns play a similar game, so at least he can stay out there with him. But the Celtics are very well coached. Manzula's going to have matchups. He's going to try to – I just hope we don't do no more of that drop coverage crap. I just hope not. If Tibs does that, I might go drive down to the Garden and talk to him myself. I can't see it. Fellas, I can't see it. I can't see cat and drop covers, not in this series, especially what I just saw the last round. So
you're saying this is also not a Mitchell Robinson series either.
I do think Mitchell Robinson is going to get some minutes. I was going to get to that too. Mitchell Robinson, now that he's healthy, he hasn't really gotten a chance against the Celtics until I believe the last game we played, you guys. But he was also on a minute restriction at that time. You know what I'm saying? Now he's gotten into the flow. He was a big factor in the last series. I think he can do well with the second unit. And I would not be surprised if you might see for maybe a short period of time, the double big lineup with him and Cat, depending on, or him getting more minutes than Cat getting into foul trouble. I can see it. But I'm telling you right now, the Knicks need Deuce McBride more in this series than Mitch. And I really, truly mean that, as I've been really, really thinking about this for a couple of days. Deuce has not looked good for a little while now based on what we need him to be. He has not looked good in that last series. If he can be at least that guy off the bench and give us some scoring punch, it's going to be a big factor in keep being competitive in this series, man. Because I know my guy Jaylen Brunson, he's going to beat it. He's going to do his part. It's going to be a matter of what everyone else does to keep this games close and try to and take out you guys in an upset. But we will see.
As we welcome in another special guest here to the program.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, salute, man. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate you, man.
Yes, we love to have you guys on here, and we love to mine every perspective and angle and opinion out there, especially on this Celtics-Knicks series. And we went around the table here when we started here about initial thoughts. But what are your initial thoughts on this series just coming in here, real quick?
I mean, it's going to be a tough series for us. Celtics. They're not the Detroit Pistons whatsoever. So the mistakes that we're making in the Pistons series, we definitely can't make against the Celtics. as a Knicks fan, the longer the series, I think it favors us. The shorter the series, it definitely would favor you guys. But I think game one is definitely important for us. Game one, we have to go out and win that game. I think game one is really crucial for us because, it's more of a mental edge. If we could go into game one and we could win game one, then we letting them know that we're here.
Right.
Even like during the regular season, you guys just murdered us like in pretty much every game except for the last game of the season. But it's the playoffs is different. It's a different mentality, a different pace. Hopefully, we'll be able to steal game one. I'm going to say Knicks in 7 as a fan. That's where I'm going to go with. But objectively, you guys are the champs, and I have to respect that. You guys are the champs. So the shorter the series, like I said, it'll work in your favor. But longer the series, I think it will favor us. I think what we, our game plan, what we should do, we shouldn't double team whatsoever. You guys play a lot of 5 out, right?
Oh, man, no. Not against those shooters. No way.
So the thing about it is that we can't, everybody should play one-on-one. There should be no help defense because everybody in your starting lineup and on the bench can shoot the 3. You guys shoot more 3s than 2s, right? Am I mistaken?
Right? We're right on the line pretty much every game.
So it's just like we have to guard the perimeter, and I think in the Magic kind of laid the blueprint out a little bit. I always thought that, like, that's always been like the game plan against you guys. You guys, we just have to close out the 3-point shooters and you guys take to it. So I think we need to apply that same game plan, and then let's see what happens. But another thing that I have the advantage that you guys are going to exploit the mismatches. You're going to exploit our best players. Our best players are our worst defenders, which is Cat and Brunson. So I know every time when y'all coming down the court, you're going to have Tatum in that pick and roll, and he's going to try to exploit the matchup and try to get Towns on him. The double big, and same thing with Brunson. So the double big lineup is only going to work when you guys have double bigs in, because one thing we don't want to do is we don't want Mitch guarding Tatum on a perimeter or Cat guarding any of the other perimeter players. So everybody's talking about, the double, putting a double big lineup. It's not going to work. It will only work if you have Horford and Luke Cornett in the game at the same time, along with KP. So that's pretty much it.
From your guys' perspective too, so you talk a lot about what the Knicks need to do in this series to neutralize the Celtics, but what kind of advantages can the Knicks actually gain over the Celtics in this series, knowing the Celtics they're going to have so many mismatches in this series, just from a defensive and offensive perspective. Offensively, Tatum, Brown, they're going hunting this series. They're going hunting on guys like Jaylen Brunson. They're going hunting on guys like Karl Anthony Towns, and of course off the bench. Miles McBride. He's a good defensive player, but he's gonna have a little bit of a size disadvantage against the Celtics in the series, as well as campaign. But looking at all the advantages the Celtics have, how can the Knicks gain their own advantages in this series, and how can they be creative in this series to put the series in their favor? And Jorge, we'll start with you.
Well, I don't know if this really is an advantage the Knicks have in this series. But they have what I would say they have weapons to make it to where the Celtics will not just run us over if we play our game. You know what I'm saying? That's just my thing. The advantages are not in the Knicks' favor in this series. It's not. You know what I'm saying? It's the only like given, in my opinion, in this series for the Knicks is Jaylen Brunson, because he always figures it out. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna get his 30. This is what he does in the playoffs. He's a different level of player in the playoffs. He's one of those guys that actually gets better in the playoffs. So he'll do what he does. But the Celtics will make it difficult on him because that's what they are. The Celtics are the champs. But like I said, the key is OG. OG guarding Tatum is the biggest key the Knicks have. in this series. Tatum is going to get he's going to get his 25 to 30, but we can't give up this 45 stuff. We can't do that. You know what I'm saying? If we get it like that last game at the Garden, OG and Macau played very good defense against him in that last game, but he was hitting shots. You know, he was just hitting shots that you're like, man, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know, and key shots down the stretch at that. That's who Jason Tatum is. So the key is when you play great players, you're not going to stop them, but you got to contain them. And OG is the type of defender that can make that happen. He is. He is one of the best two-way wings in the basketball, in my opinion. I always have said that. The key is, can he make Tatum work on the other end? That's another thing. He's got to make Tatum work. Tatum can't just be like taking minutes. He can't, because he's going to work for his on the offense. But when it's the other way around, Tatum can't have it to where he's just kind of like hanging out in the wing with him in the corner and just, you know, catching his breath so he can go attack OG when you guys get back down the court. He's got to make him work for everything he's got. And I just feel like the Towns Porzingis thing, I think that has potentially to be a wash in this series. I do, because Towns actually matches up better with Porzingis and Porzingis style of play than he did with Detroit physical play. You know what I'm saying? They both play. Now he can sit out there and now just be out there and shoot his threes now and not worry about, I have to make sure I get back and rebound now because these guys are going to bang. That is not what Porzingis really is there to do. He's there to stretch the floor. You know what I'm saying? Hit those threes. That was another thing he did in the last game. Porzingis hit some big time threes in that game, you know, down the stretch in that last one that we played against you guys. So I don't think the Knicks have an advantage in any particular area in this series, but I do think they have enough, at least in the starting lineup, to make it difficult if they play up to their capability to actually make this a series. I really do. I don't know if they'll win. As my guy T said, the Knicks fan in us, we're going to take our boys in 7. We're going to do that. But objectively speaking, this is going to be a tall task for the Knicks. There's no doubt about it. It's no doubt about it, man. I actually would rather play Cleveland in the second round at this point than Boston. Honestly, you know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. To be the best, you got to beat the best. And I just feel like after this series we just had with Detroit, the team will have more confidence, and that I do like that. I do like that. So we'll see how it goes. But to answer your question, as I said, there's no advantages the Knicks have. The only constant is Jaylen Brunson, and we'll see if everything else can work itself out.
And your perspective, T, and again here for viewers just joining in, T and Jorge joining us from Born for Sports. But T, from your perspective, what can the Knicks do? And we asked the rest of the panel this to start out the show here, but who's the Knicks X factor in this series? And kind of the same question too is where can the Knicks gain an advantage in this series over the Celtics?
I mean, the X factor is going to have to be, you know, in our wing players, in Mikal Bridges and OG. You know, in terms of them, in terms of us making, you know, taking advantage, you know, we, like George said, is that, you know, we got to make Tatum work. We got to make you guys, you know, we got to make the wings. We got to make Jaylen Brown work. You know, like you said, we can't just be on the perimeter and then both, you know, wing players are just resting on defense. You know, when when the ball is not moving. So, you know, we have to exploit that. You know, so what I want to see OG in the post more, because OG has a low post game.
Yeah.
Right. And same thing with Mikal Bridges. You know, he likes to shoot a lot of fadeaway shots. So, you know, we got to make Jaylen Brown work. We got to make Jason Tatum work. And then see, the thing about it is our bench. We don't have we don't have an advantage on the bench. You already know that. You know, but one thing I want to see from our bench, even though we may not get the points from our bench, but I just want to see better production. Like, it should be all hands on deck. You know, like, I understand Tibs is going to run like a, you know, 8-man rotation, maybe a 7-man rotation, but he may need to extend the bench a little bit more in the series, because you guys run with like almost a 9 to 10-man rotation, right?
I mean, pretty well. We go 8, 9 deep, depending on if we want to play Cornet or not. So if Cornet's in the game, it'll be 9 deep. If Cornet doesn't play, we'll usually go 8 deep.
Yeah,
that's somewhere, and that's been for the playoffs. That was the first round series. just taking it from the first round series against the Magic. Obviously, near the end of the season, the Celtics were just. I mean, I don't know if the Knicks necessarily at the end of the year were doing the same thing, fighting for playoff seeding, but the Celtics were just kind of throwing out different rotations near the end of the year. But 8 deep, pretty much.
Yeah.
8, 9.
Okay. So yeah, I mean that's really like our X factors. Our X factors are going to either have to be OG and Mikal. They're going to have to come to play. They're going to have to make you guys make Tatum and Brown work on both ends of the court because you don't want them resting. So I mean, if we can make them work, I mean, I think the series could go further than what it is. We're going to compete.
Yeah,
I like to see
think
Delon Wright get some minutes too for the Knicks. I actually think Delon Wright could actually, if Tibs wanted to, Delon Wright could actually get some minutes. I would like to see that because honestly, and I think it's dependent on like what Deuce gives us. If Deuce is still kind of like messing up like that, like he had in the first round, I think Tibs is going to have decisions to make. Maybe a Shamit, maybe he goes to Shamit a little more in this series. Because he does bring 3-point shooting. And as my guy T said, our bench production is the biggest issue with the roster. It's the bench production. We don't expect a lot from them. We just want them to kind of tread water and keep the game within range for us for when our starters get our rest. So, hey, I could definitely see Shamit getting minutes if Deuce falters.
Well, I mean that actually you're kind of going into my next question here is like who. T mentioned the bench. You might see it extended from the Knicks this series, and that kind of brings up the question of who are those guys for the Knicks. I think Delon Wright, he could be one of those guys. Certainly, you look at. But do you guys believe Tibbs even trusts anybody outside of the starting lineup though? Right now, like, does Tibbs actually have? I don't want to call it ego. I don't want to say ego, but does he have the level of sacrifice within some of the lineups he's been playing all season long to go to something different in this round?
Well, I think I wouldn't call it ego I agree. I wouldn't call it like ego per se. I would call it more stubbornness. I just think he's so stuck in his ways of how he coaches. You're talking about a coach that's, he was under the Riley, Van Gundy tree, and even with you guys with Boston, he was there. He was a bench coach. He just the way he does things. Chicago, and when he was like this in Chicago, he was like this in Minnesota, and now he's doing it here. And that's kind of been us Knicks fans. Our gripe with him is more about the stubbornness with him, and that's why we always wonder if he is the right guy to eventually get the team over the hump. He's a good coach, and we're happy we have him. But is he going to be the guy to take us to the next level? That is yet to be seen. I feel like he's the type of coach you got to push him. You got to kind of push him. You got to hear noise around, and the media got to kind of get in him, and the fans got to kind of talk, like to convince him, like, hey, maybe I need to go to Delon Wright. Maybe I need to go to Shamit or whoever, or mix this up. Maybe against Detroit, I might put a little more emphasis on minutes for a double line or Mitch Robinson or whatever. That's the type of guy he is. Once the media keeps going at him with it, then kind of maybe he finds a way to do that. But it's stubbornness with him. It just is what it is. He doesn't play his young players. When our rookies, we didn't get a lot of minutes this year. The rookie class we had. Me and T, we talk all the time about it. We want him to develop our young players more, and it just he trusts veterans more every time. That's just how he is. It's stubbornness, man.
Yeah, that's I don't want to call it unfortunate in some regards, but it kind of is. It kind of is for the Knicks. Like they had I apologize if I totally butcher this player's name, but Pacome Dadier. So he's a player I looked at coming into the season. I was like, oh, maybe a wing that could help the Knicks, maybe slide in there. And then it's like you never saw him throughout the entirety of the season. And you might have seen him on court with the Westchester Knicks. I don't know about the New York Knicks. A little bit different. But just looking ahead at this entire series, obviously we have our Celtics guys here on the panel too. Andrew, going over to you here from your perspective in this series, what do you believe is the biggest advantage of the Celtics in this series over the Knicks? We talked a lot about the mismatch opportunities of the Celtics, and we've talked about some other things as well. But just from your perspective, what is one of the biggest advantages of the Celtics in this series that maybe we're not talking about here or we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, I think. Oh, I mean, you just said we haven't talked about it, so I'm not going to go in the bench direction because it's just the truth. But oh, my bad, camera's down.
No, that was a Franco thing earlier this season. Franco, except I mean, at least your camera isn't held up by duct tape. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
right.
or no, his was like Scotch tape. That was crazy times. Production value here. SeatGeek,
Yeah,
SeatGeek, folks. SeatGeek, $20 off. Use our code to get our production value up here, so we don't have to use Scotch tape for cameras. But go ahead, Andrew.
I think for the Celtics, honestly, I'm gonna go with because we were talking about the Knicks too, like that kind of direction. I kind of want to go in the Knicks direction if that's okay, because I just think the Knicks need to like it was already mentioned, but the Knicks need to match like the Magic's blueprint of really forcing the Celtics to feel pressure, forcing the Celtics to feel physicality, and like attacking the basket, drawing fouls, and getting easier buckets. Because it's going to be you don't want Jaylen Brunson working so hard for all of his baskets. Like you want to give you just want easier buckets. And I think that can come too, like Boston, switches. Like how do we attack the switches? How can we get slips? Can we get easy ball movement off of it? Maybe that is where the Knicks find success, where it's like they can just possibly get some easier baskets that kind of alleviate the pressure from Brunson. And Brunson draws like he has the second most fouls like drawn in this in the playoffs so far. So
good point to that. The Celtics actually are one of the best teams in the league at not sending teams or players to the line. So
yeah,
you'd see something there where the Celtics, maybe they have an advantage in taking away Brunson's best advantage.
There you go. Yeah, that I didn't say go start off right away with the Celtics advantage, but yeah, there you go. Through conversation, I agree. Yeah, like how can we prevent Brunson from, like, I know we keep talking about it, but just make Brunson really, really, really work for his baskets. Same way that the Knicks need to make Tatum work for his buckets, make everything a heavily contested look, make it difficult for him. I think that's a key one. Send a lot of different looks at Brunson. Give him Tatum, give him Brown. Give him D. White, Holiday. Like just throw so many guys at him that he's seeing different looks. He's seeing different looks that it just makes him lose rhythm on the offensive end. I think that's a key one for Brunson. I feel like we talked about it on Celtics Nation Rise, he has like a 29% usage rate. Like, get the ball out of his hands and just try to make Brunson lose rhythm so that way he doesn't find, ways to get points. Because that's how basketball works, right? And especially for like high volume guys, like they want to have the ball in their hands a majority of the game, and as the game progresses, they find themselves really taking it up a notch on the offensive end. So that's what I think.
And Griffin, for you, what are some of the advantages the Celtics can gain in this series, or what are some of the biggest advantages the Celtics have in this series? Oh, we gotta mute Mike.
Oh, jeez.
It's tough when you have a Sunday afternoon recording at 5. See, these aren't like the post games, folks. Like post game, nothing's going on at night. Afternoon, you might need to mute your mic because your cat is jumping on your table and causing disturb. I mean, these are the things that happen. These are the things that happen. But go ahead, Griff, since we can hear you now.
Yeah, you guys can hear me now. No, for me though, I said it earlier too in my initial thoughts, but I think the biggest advantage for the Boston Celtics is just the fact that we played one of the best defensive teams already. And that's just going to help us a lot, because now we're going to be able to score. And you saw the tough part. The Boston Celtics were like the biggest factor for me is the Boston Celtics usually blow out teams. Like it's tough when they don't keep their foot on the gas pedal, but I think I feel like now we're going to be able to score, and the defense isn't going to be so great opposed to the Orlando Magic that it's going to come off a lot easier. Now, the Knicks are going to be able to score a lot more than the Orlando Magic as well, and we're going to have to keep up with the Knicks, but I don't think that'll be an issue. I feel like the Boston Celtics, it's been rough for them. I mean, Peyton Pritchard hasn't really had any look at me games. He's been, one of the men that you kind of, all right, well, he's playing 20 something minutes and not giving you a lot offensively. He's going to be a player that's going to shine in this series, as we already mentioned earlier in the program. So I think it's just the fact that the Boston Celtics are going to, come off more aggressive in a sense and attack the ball, get more points. And that's going to be a great advantage. I feel like you're going to see a lot more threes for the Boston Celtics. It was hard for them to score threes in that Orlando Magic series because it didn't come easy. It really didn't. But now for the Boston Celtics, you're going to see it come more easy. You're going to see a lot more 3-pointers. You're going to see a lot more shot attempts. It's going to be a lot more offensive dominated basketball rather than more so defensively, so that's my biggest advantage for the Boston Celtics in this upcoming series versus the Knicks.
I agree with you on that too. Sorry to cut you off, boss.
No, go ahead, Jorge. This talk show, we love people talking on you.
Yeah. I just wanted to say I definitely agree with him because, to be honest, the Knicks' Achilles heel defensively is our 3-point defense. It's been an issue all year. So, and we don't want that as Knicks fans. We don't want to get into a situation where we're just leaving a bunch of open 3-point shooters out there because Boston, they take a lot of threes and they make a lot of them. So you guys are the type of team that it could be a 3-point game and you make one or two mistakes on defense guarding that perimeter in back-to-back possessions, and just like that, it's 13 points. Now you're down 13. You got Tatum and Brown going to the line for 2. The Knicks cannot get into any kind of a situation like that in this series because it's just not sustainable for us. We have to keep this, at the pace that we can hang like that. Celtics are going to make threes no matter how much defense you play, but the Knicks cannot have a situation where you guys are raining threes on us all day. I mean, that's what happened in the first game of the season. Even though, thank you, NBA, giving us that game to open the season on ring night when we got a new team. But whatever, you guys went and stomped the crap out of us. It was like bombs away. It was like bombs away. I was just like, man, like call the Coast Guard or something. Shit, whatever. Excuse my language, but it's just listen. The Knicks. They're not a strong defensive team as they have been in the past, but they have shown the ability in spurts during the games to where they can defend. And with this series, as my guy team mentioned, as I mentioned early in the show, we're stepping up in weight class this time. So we got to play fundamentally sound on every assignment or it's going to be a long series.
And can I mention something really quick before you go, Seamus? Is I want to say this. In addition to what you already said, Jorge, about that first game of the season, I feel like, for one, it was Boston Celtics ring night. They're going to come out there with a bang. Yeah. So that, you could give some credit to that. And you could give some credit to, the matchups with injury-wise. But I think the Boston Celtics, coming off that last game, in that second half, they were playing the best basketball they have all series with Orlando Magic. If they come in there playing with that mindset, being like, okay, we got to turn it up a level now, and we really want Banner 19, and it's how badly we want it, and you start to see them playing that basketball they did ring night, there's not a team in the NBA that could stop them. And that's not coming from me. That's coming from an NBA analysts. I feel like if they're playing that type of basketball, it's tough to compete with that because they've had that chemistry. They've been there. They won Banner 18 and they're going for 19. They've had that chemistry. They know what they're doing. And you saw that opening night. That's the best basketball you could ever ask for, except for, I would say, Game 5 when they won the championship. Both of those games are similar, but if they start playing like that, and you already mentioned how the Knicks 3 defense is not the best. So if they start, getting into a rhythm with their threes, it's going to be tough to compete with that. It really is. And that's where my factor comes in. All right, if we're playing that type of basketball, it could easily be a 4-game series if Tatum's playing how he, did that night and his best version of himself. But if not, and we start playing more like the Magic series, this could be a 5 to 6 game series.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry to cut you off. So did y'all do?
No, go ahead.
Did you guys get any predictions yet?
I think we'll go at the end.
We're gonna get to
you got
that.
A big one earlier, T. You missed that.
Griffin, you weren't shy though about your prediction for this series.
Griffin loves dropping the.
No, because listen, I was gonna switch it up. But you said on my podcast I gotta stick with it.
No,
so
I agree. You do have to stick.
I have to. I was gonna say 5, but
no, you weren't. I was gonna say 5, even though you brought out the Drew Holiday jersey and presented the 4. And
wait,
you went with the theatrics.
You guys gotta watch that. If you haven't, go watch episode 36, Celtics Nation Rise. You gotta see the ending of that. It was very eventful. It was very. I was feeling it, but that's good. That means my energy's coming back out. I'm ready for 19. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Yeah, what's funny too is I was trying to transition into a segment about Drew Holiday that night, and it was like, oh no, Griffin, we're on the same page, and it's like, no, Celtics in 4. I'm not about to drink that Kool-Aid again right now. I know we're dropping a game this series, but I will say, why don't we just get on to our predictions? How about that? I mean, come on, let's go around the panel here, and Jorge, we'll start. We'll go clockwise around the panel. Jorge, we'll start with you. What are your series predictions at the end of this one?
Man, all right. Listen, the Knicks fan in me is one prediction, and then my unbiased opinion is the other prediction. I'll give you my unbiased opinion. My unbiased opinion is I just think the Celtics are just a little too much for the Knicks. I just think based on where the roster trajectories are right now, I would have to say it's more about the bench for me. The Knicks bench is what holds me back from feeling like, oh man, the Knicks are gonna do this. They're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. You know what I mean? The bench. If I can see the bench step up, then I'll be like, well, okay, you know what? Then we got something here. But they just been so inconsistent this year, and quite frankly, the talent of the bench has not been as strong for the Knicks roster as been in the last couple of years. And again, that goes back to the cat trade right before training camp and so forth. So I would have to say Celtics in 6, but I'm on your show, and I'm coming with that Knicks love. Knicks in 7, baby. I'm going Knicks in 7, man. I got to do it. I got it right. Knicks in 7. Jaylen Brunson is going to show the world why he is a superstar once again and conquer the dragon. That is the Knicks fan in me talking, okay? That is the Knicks fan in me talking. Just like my guy up there said Celtics in 4, that Boston fandom had to talk. So I'm giving you both sides of it. If the Knicks win this series, it'll be in 7. It'll have to be in 7. I don't think this is going to be a situation where the Knicks are going to just go and just win every game. That's not going to happen. It's going to have to be a grind out thing. Jaylen Brunson averaging 35 in the series, leading us to win. I got to do it, folks. I got to do
it. the discrepancy in takes right now, Griffin, you're on Celtics in 4. Jorge, you're on Knicks in 7. I mean, it's pretty far away from each other.
My fandom says Knicks in 7, but my unbiased opinion is Celtics in 6. But I gotta ride with my boys. We ride to the wheels fall off out here, bro.
What do you think, T? What do you think about this series?
Oh, I already said Knicks in 7.
So okay, I didn't know if you had a fan take and then
I said it
maybe objective take.
I did have an objective take before. I said the shorter the series, it'll favor you guys. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't give a clear cut, like, okay, you know what, you guys are gonna win in 4 or 5 games. I just gave you kind of like, what type of landscape it may be. But Knicks in 7, like I'm going with my guys. But I think game 1 is very important. After game 1, I'll see. You know, maybe I may change, but I have to go with Knicks in 7. I have to. Like I can't say, you know, Boston in 6 or Boston in 5. You know, I want to you know, I can't be unbiased. I can be as a basketball fan. I can be, but you know, this is Boston here. Like, you know, we, you know, this is New York and Boston. Like, we hate each other. Let's just put it like that. Like, our cities hate each other. I mean, I got love for you guys, you know, and I just we just met, but you know, it's just, you know, I just can't say that about a Boston team. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Fair,
I
man.
understand.
I do not
no matter
blame
what it is, no matter what sport it is, you know. So I have to just say Knicks in 7. But you know, in my brain here, you know, it's, you know, objectively, I'm not gonna say it, but you know.
And to back my guy T up, we recognize what this is right now. We recognize that. We're not one of these delusional type of fans that just think the Knicks are the greatest thing in sliced bread. We recognize this is a tall task.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This is like, I know I keep saying it. This is a step up in weight class here. Okay. The chance for a reason. And it's going to take a gargantuan effort on the Knicks' part to get this done. Okay. We going to ride it till the wheels fall off, though. We're going to ride it till the wheels fall off. But this is going to be a big test. And honestly, the Knicks are going to be the underdog, as they should. And I just hope that they take it like that and say, hey, us against the world, baby.
I respect the
New York versus everybody.
I respect the I respect the loyalty to the team. I gotta say, I respect the loyalty out there. I mean, you gotta believe. I completely understand from a perspective of, you know, Cardinals and Cubs. If they're in a playoff series, I'm not picking the Cubs. I just can't. And in this series, I couldn't. I don't know if
I know you hate those Cubs, man. I know you hate those Cubs, bro.
Oh no! See, here's the thing. Red Sox, Yankees, see this stuff behind me here. I'm not like, let's just lay it out for everybody on this broadcast. And Andrew, we're gonna get to your series prediction here in a second.
Bro.
So you got time to think here.
You gotta get my
I'm thinking.
Here's going. But essentially here, I'm not a huge Red Sox guy. Okay, not a huge. I see them from afar. Obviously, got a lot of Boston people in my life, so I hear about the Red Sox. I'll follow them just a little bit, but I'm not, you know, gung ho on the Red Sox.
Mm-hmm. Pretty obvious.
I've always looked at Red Sox Yankees as like, oh yeah, cool rivalry, right? But I never understood the actual hatred for either fan base has for each other in terms of that specific rivalry, because it, you know, it's 100 years plus rivalry now, opposed to, you know, some of these, you know, Knicks Celtics is what, 78 years old, somewhere around there, 78 years old. So a lot of history still there. But to put it in perspective, it's like the amount of hate that I have for the Cubs. It's like, I know that's like 10x for Yankees versus Red Sox on either side. Like that is how it's viewed on both sides. So I can certainly see it from that perspective. And so I respect the loyalty to the team, because Knicks Celtics, I mean, this is what we want. First of all, this is what we absolutely want, is the rivalry resparked, because we know the history of Boston and New York sports, even outside of basketball. But it just feels like it feels like in the basketball world, these two teams are rivals. They've been rivals, but it just hasn't clicked at the same moment to where they're actually playing in meaningful playoff series.
It just hasn't been good at the same time.
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, the Knicks, you could say the height of the Knicks, I mean, other than, you know, the early 70s, but it was in the 1990s with Patrick Ewing and John Starks and all them. And the Celtics were just awful in the 90s, just awful in the 90s.
Yeah.
So there's absolutely no chance there. But obviously now playing in the semifinals in the Knicks, I mean, there's supposed to be built to beat the Celtics. Now, I think maybe next year they'll have a better opportunity with an increased roster off the bench that they could potentially look at. And you never know. We've been talking about, you know, the possibility Tibs has moved out of that position, and the head coaching position. It's a big thing in the NBA. We saw the Cleveland Cavaliers. They go from JV Bickerstaff to Kenny Atkinson. They don't really switch around the pieces of their team. They look like a completely different team playing on court this year. And a lot of that is to be chalked up, obviously, to the motivation of the team, but also the head coaching behind that squad. And the Cavs, we all know how good they've been this season. So the Knicks could be coming for them on the horizon. But first, this first round series is still to be had. And Andrew, finally, on to you. Series predictions. We have a lot of. I mean, Andrew, you have the chance to be the one person on here right now that doesn't go totally down. I mean, on your side, it would be the what would it be called? It'd be drinking the green Kool-Aid. It would be going down the green rabbit hole. I mean, bleeding green, Andrew. So what is your perspective on this series, and what are your predictions?
Well, I had some time to think, and I don't know if you guys have seen any of the street content on the Celtics page, on our page, but shout out Randy. I'm going Celtics in 3.
Oh,
Celtics in 3.
Jeez.
I'm just kidding. I'm just
Game
playing.
4 is canceled. Game 4 just gets canceled.
In all seriousness, I'm playing. I'm thinking like 5-6. I think that the Knicks dropping 4 to the Celtics, like a win is due. A win or 2 are due. They have the Celtics number now. They're ready to. They're going to bring a level of intensity. They have, they want revenge. I think they're going to at least get 2. And I think, come playoffs, anything can happen. So that's what I'm going.
I want to go too. Can I go?
Go ahead, Griffin.
All right. Listen, my NBA analyst hat. All right. I'm putting that on. The Celtics
Unbiased hat.
I really think this has the potential to go to a 5 or 6 game series. I do.
Wow, really, Griffin? Really? You're coming off your 4 takes? Really?
No, but I realistically think that.
I think the Knicks can win a game against the Celtics? No way.
I think we can win 2 games, but unfortunately, I gotta go Celtics in 4.
Okay. I saw you getting up earlier. I saw that.
Andrew hit me with it. So you're right. I gotta go Celtics in 4. We're bringing the holiday jersey back out. I gotta go, and you guys gotta respect it. It's my inner Celtics fan, But it's gonna be. What was that?
Can we make a there's a bet on the Celtics beating us in 4. That's it. Not the series.
Let's go.
The bet is if the Celtics beat us in 4, I get to wear a Celtics jersey.
Holiday.
Okay.
Holiday with 4 on.
Wait. So the other side of this is if the Knicks bring it to 5, Griffin, you have to wear a Knicks jersey. Well, that's fair.
I'd say if they win the series. If they win the series, you gotta throw Knicks on.
Griffin, you gotta I don't know if he's frozen. Is he frozen
if they win the series, I have a. All right. How about this?
Freezes just at a convenient time.
No, I'm frozen. Wait.
Yes.
Can you guys hear me now? Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
We thought you were ducking.
All right.
I thought you left the call.
I have another proposition for you. If the Boston Celtics don't win in 4 or 5, I think I got some Yankees fans up here that get a Yankees hat from. I'm saying, all right, we could do either in 4.
Okay, Yankees hat is fair. Well, but to be fair,
that's fair.
Jorge, you said you were a Mets guy.
I'm a Red Sox.
T, are you a Yankees or Mets guy?
I'm a Red Sox fan, though.
I mean,
and that would kill me. That would kill me. If
you got Yankee, I got plenty of Yankee hats.
Wait. So Griffin, the bet here. So a Celtics jersey on T if it's Celtics in 4. Griffin, you're wearing a Yankee hat on this program. If it's Celtics in 5, 6, 7, Knicks win the series. That's a pretty tall bet, Griffin. I'll say this. That's a pretty tall bet. But
do we do Knicks win the series then? Do we do Knicks win the series? Is that if Knicks win the series, I wear the Yankee hat?
No, it
Celtics
has
in 4.
Whoa,
wear the
whoa.
No.
No, but if it's nothing in between. But if it's nothing in between,
no. It's either Celtics sweep.
I think.
And we have a Celtics jersey on.
Celtics sweep. That's a very bold take.
Yeah, very bold. That's very bold.
But if it's Celtics, Griffin, if it's Celtics in 5, are you wearing the Yankees hat or not? Hello.
But the Celtics still win.
Hello.
I mean, I could.
No, you gotta.
Wait, here, Griffin, I'll move you down here. You guys can shake on it.
Shake on it. You come on.
Come on, Griffin.
That means
You have to, if you're standing up for your Celtics and 4 take right now, Griffin, you got to wear the Yankees hat in Game 5 if it happens. Come on now.
I will find. Whoa! After the series is over, because I'm doing this. No, I will wear it, but I'm doing this. Like it's like the Orlando Magic song. I will not do anything that includes New York until after the series. It's just how it is. Like
what
when we face. It's a
Griffin. You got to stand on business right now. All right, you got to stand on business.
Come on.
Listen, we from New York, bro. You stand on business when you put them things in the air.
You gotta know who you're dealing with, Griffin. You gotta know you're
all right. Here's the proposition. All right, here's the final bet. If the Knicks, all right, I can't talk. If the Celtics win in 4, you wear a Celtics jersey. If the Celtics don't win in 4 and they win anything other than that after the series, I will wear a Yankees hat. I will find one of my boys up
How
here.
about you have to?
But after the series,
Red Sox game.
So if we win Game 1 tomorrow, right? That means on the next broadcast, you could wear.
Yeah, it has to be the next broadcast. Not after the series.
Shake on. Yep, I got you.
Wait, you're turned the wrong way, Griffin.
What?
I think that was totally the wrong way.
I got you. My bad.
Just do
you guys are reflected.
Just do a fist dab.
Do it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's all.
Do you got a Celtics jersey though?
No, I don't.
You might have to ship.
That's my problem. So find a Celtics.
No, but see, that's where he's. No, it's like the Miami Heat Pat Riley thing. It's like I don't even need a Celtics jersey because I'm so confident in what's about to happen right now. Griffin, you better get that Yankees hat. I hate to be that.
I'm confident.
Griffin, you should go to a Red Sox game with the Yankees hat.
All right,
I'll buy a jersey.
And
you guys got to do like a swap, like Griffin, like you got
like a meetup. Yeah,
we do.
A jersey swap.
Be up in Connecticut. But we'll see what happens here in this series, Griffin. You definitely some bold takes here on this broadcast. But you got to stand on your take though. I will say Celtics at 4. If you're gonna give it out objectively, or we're in a fan sense, you got to stand on it. I will say that. But just into more serious conversation here, just before we end off. Just a couple of questions here, just on the New York Knicks in general. We saw the huge Karl Anthony Towns trade. It happened before the regular season, a few weeks before the regular season started, a few weeks before the preseason started. And the Knicks, they trade Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and there's picks exchanged between the Knicks and the Timberwolves for Karl Anthony Towns. From your guys' perspective, what were your guys' reaction of the trade when it went down? And what have you guys thought now going through an entire regular season and now one playoff series going into the semifinals? How do you guys grade that cat trade? And what are your thoughts on it? Jorge, we'll start with you.
Well, when the trade happened, I had mixed emotions because I was like, man, I'm happy we got Cat. Oh, man, that's going to be he's going to space the floor. That's a good freaking trade. I'm like, yeah, I like that. But then when I saw the anatomy of the trade, I'm like, damn, Devo's not here. They traded Devo. That was the guy I didn't want to be seen. But then I understood it because if you want to give, you gotta give to get. You got to give to get. And Julius Randle, he was in that trade. DiVincenzo, he was supposed to be a big part of our bench this year. And that's why we're kind of feeling the effects of that right now. Because going to the season before that trade came, Devo was supposed to come off the bench. We had McBride with him. He was going to be the top dog when Bridges' trade was made. So I was happy about the trade, and I'll give the trade right now. I'll give it a B+. I'll give it a B+ because, first of all, Cat started the All-Star game this year. So it's not like he had a bad year here. He's just adjusting to how things are done in New York. You know what I'm saying? And I just think going forward we'll be better for it as long as we take care of the bench this summer and going forward.
Yeah, and T, what were your thoughts on the Karl Anthony Towns trade this season?
Same thing like with George. I was real happy to get Karl Anthony Towns because I feel like that was something that we needed. We needed like a stretch 5. I wasn't really a fan of Randall like that. I just learned to, just accept him like over time, even though he was, part of our, our big 1-2 punch. But I was glad that he was gone. But losing Devo like really hurt. I was really hoping that we gave up Deuce McBride instead. But that, that didn't happen. But I would grade the trade, definitely an A, because Karl Anthony Towns is a major upgrade over Julius Randle, no matter what anybody says. I know Julius Randle, he's a gritty, tough, basketball player. He plays with his back to the basket. But I just think that, on a whole, the camaraderie between, with the team, I just think that, the personalities mesh better with Karl Anthony Towns. So I'll give the grade, an A for now. And he's played better than him, for the most part. Like you said, like he's an all-star. He's going to be an all-NBA player, all-NBA team. I'll give the grade an A, but losing Devo like really, really hurt. Like, as you can see, like look at our bench. Our bench is, is not that good. He was hoping that Deuce can fill, what we were getting from Devo, but he's been inconsistent. He started out, at the beginning of the season, on an injured list. I think he had a hamstring injury, right?
Yeah. He had started off with a hammy.
Yeah. So he's been inconsistent all season, but Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, he's that guy. Like he's really good. I mean,
I haven't seen a shooter, a big shoot like that. Yeah. Like day in, day out. You really appreciate his skill set when you watch him like game after game, like what he brings. And he's a good rebounder too.
Yeah. And that soft label that's been labeled on him for, I guess going back to when he was playing with Jimmy Butler back in Minnesota, he's not soft at all. No. Like he's not soft. No. Like he plays like with his back to the back. He's not afraid. So sometimes, with a narrative, when somebody puts, a narrative, on you, it just sticks with you. And sometimes, you could break it or, it just stick with you forever, but to me, just watching him, in a Knicks uniform, he's far from soft.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to hear you guys. Dante DiVincenzo. It seemed to be like the sentiment from the New York fan base was Dante DiVincenzo's gone. That's the player we actually care about. And Julius Randle, the former All-Star, just didn't seem to hold the same love after that trade. Obviously, you definitely swap out Randle for Towns any day of the week, but then Dante DiVincenzo added on the back end of that deal. What just happened here?
We just gave him the deuce. We every time we hit Julius Randle, we give him the deuce. Every time.
Remember, he did this.
He did that to us in the crowd.
Wow. In the crowd. You guys remember that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, no, he had a ton of antics with the fans in New York. That was my concern about Cat coming in is, will he mesh well with the New York fan base? Because it felt like Julius Randle, it was like that was not made to fit.
Well, Cat's from New York.
With Julius, it was more about the fit. He just didn't fit with Brunson for what they needed, and it was just clumsy after a while. And we needed to make a move for a start. We were kind of in this waiting mode for years about when are the Knicks going to make the big move for a star player. We flirted with Donovan Mitchell. There was talk about Durant before that, but we flirted with Donovan Mitchell. So it was kind of like one of those things where we were going to find out sooner or later they're going to do it. Then out of nowhere, they go get Mikal Bridges. So then it's like, okay, we got Bridges, but still not enough. You know what I mean? And Julius Randle was coming off a major injury as well. So it was a lot of talk that, is this going to be the right fit? Is he going to be able to take a step back and let it be Brunson's team? Because when he first got here, it was Randall's team. And we respect the fact that he did come here when no one else wanted to do. But sometimes it just things run its course. And in order to get better, you got to make a move like that. And it was the right move to make. we individually, us more Knicks fans, we embrace DiVincenzo a little more because, first of all, he didn't tell us to go F ourselves. That's number one. He didn't do that. And he hit one of the most memorable shots in Knicks playoff history last year in that Philly series that will go down in infamy forever for us. And that was a different personality of a team last year. We had a lot of injuries. We lost Randall. OG got hurt. We had a lot of injuries. So it was a gritty grind kind of team that us Knicks fans are used to seeing. We are used to that kind of stuff. So the city embraced that team without Randall being there. So that was another factor as well. So listen, you got to give to get. And unfortunately, he was a part of that deal. I will say this. I predict he will return to being a Knick one day. I don't know when, what year it'll be, but I predict that DiVincenzo will become a Knick again. I feel it in my bones. He never wanted to leave. I don't know if it'll be this summer, but I do think within the next year or two, we're going to see him come back to one way or the other.
That's like Marcus Smart in Boston. I feel like people think some way, somehow, Marcus Smart is some way going to find himself in like a Celtics jersey.
Or like Isaiah Thomas
Isaiah Thomas, yeah. Isaiah Thomas was the leader for that for quite some time. But now
where's Smart at now?
He's in Washington.
Wizards,
he
got traded and then there was talk about a buyout, but they never did it. He said he stood there.
Yeah, he's not gonna want to get a buyout. Nah, they're gonna have to
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
Nope, Marcus Smart. We'll see. He might be back in the future sometime later on in time, but he's gonna have to be a free agent minimum 10-day contract. Hey, Paul Pierce actually ended his career with the Celtics. It was a 1-day deal. You know, they did those kind of deals. Did Melo do that? I think Melo did that.
No, he didn't.
He didn't do that.
Common in like hockey, I noticed hockey or like because I know that for the Bruins, that tall guy, I don't know, Chara, yeah, he did that,
yeah, Bruins legend. We get into another Boston versus New York rivalry there. But as far as this preview goes, that should just about do it for us here on this live stream. Jorge, we loved having you guys on today and bringing the perspective of the Knicks fan base over here to Celtics Talk Weekly and just giving us unique looks at what the New York fan base thinks, because we always have the Boston perspective, we always have the outsiders perspective, but when you bring in fans, analysts, observers of other teams, it's obviously you learn things. That's what we're about here on this program is learning things. But also my Celtics guys over here, Andrew Quinn, Griffin Aldrich, thank you all for coming on as well. I'm sure we will see you guys in the near future. But as far as this Knicks Celtics series goes, this Knicks Celtics series starts on Monday night at the TD Garden. The Celtics and the Knicks face off against each other. They'll start the 2025 Eastern Conference Semifinals series against each other. And it's a series long awaited. Yeah, we'll get all the gear out here. We got the right back here, Boston, New York. That's where we're at, folks. Boston, New York. I mean, it's going to be a big series no matter where the two teams are at. What is this, Griffin? Oh, it's a ring. It's a ring. Oh. Griffin, do you have the other 17 of them? Do you have the other 17?
Oh, wow.
That's just the
way to rub it in our face.
Hey. Oh, man.
Is that Jordan Walsh up there?
Jordan Walsh, baby.
That's awesome. Sir. That's awesome. Yeah, there you go.
Hey, man. But I got this for you. I can mail this.
Oh, yeah, Griffin.
Look at that. You see what it is?
Go over the terms of the bet here.
Listen. Go Celtics. That's all I gotta say. Celtics. Where's the holiday jersey?
You gotta Celtics in 4. Come on, you gotta stand on it, Griffin. You're gonna make this bet.
Get the towels going.
Get the rally towel.
Oh wait. We got the rally towels out.
No, I tried to look for a rally towel too. It's I have one from the Bucks. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah.
Oh, look, wait.
Nice.
We got. It's gonna say 25.
Oh, where'd you get that, Griff?
The parade.
Is that opening night?
No, the parade.
Oh, the parade. Okay.
It's gonna say.
Oh, in-season tournament. In-season tournament.
Is that what we're doing? We're bringing out the merch right now. We got the merch.
Congratulations to the Milwaukee Bucks, by the way, for that. But, and going out in the first round. At least we're not them. But that's going to do it here for our live stream here today. The Celtics Knicks preview. They face off on Monday. A big special thanks to all of our guests here on the program: Jorge, T, Griffin, and Andrew. I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo. We'll have a lot more coming at everybody here for the Celtics Knicks series. A lot of content on the horizon, but this just kicks it off. Another special edition broadcast. But that's going to do it for us today. Thank you all for watching. And as I always say, go Celtics. And
Let's go Knicks, baby!
Little treat for y'all to end this off, too. Here we go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do it. KP.
Oh, man.
See y'all, folks. That's going to do it for us.